And there's something to be said about Wesley Snipes, who, he is the producer of the Blade films, and he's one of the action choreographers, on top of being Blade himself, which is already enough of a feat. But he was talking about in the editing process when they were cutting all of the action together, Wesley would step in and he would find that, the editor's initial attempts to edit the action scenes was very quick, it was very stylized, and he under his advice to Del Toro, and Del Toro talks about this as well. His advice to Guillermo del Toro is like, look, I mean, yeah, you already understand that the action scene needs a motivation, and you're approaching it from this whole dance idea, that's all fine and good, but when you're cutting the action scene, style is not the most important thing. You still have to convey the emotion and where the character is coming from into your edits so that the audience can see what the character is going through. And this advice was paramount for Guillermo del Toro, who, although he had done some action sequences before, they were not the biggest parts of the movies he'd done. He'd done Chronos and he'd done Mimic, both of which had some action sequences, but they were not big action sequences. They were the part that they were in those movies, but this is actually a full-on action picture. So Wesley Snipes is coming in with his love for action movies. He has a love for martial arts movies, but also this appreciation for, like, he talks about when Wesley Snipes talks about action in the commentary, he talks about his choices as Blade. Is like, as a black man with my physique, I can't move the way, you might see a Chinese martial artist move. It doesn't look natural with my particular physique. And also, on top of that, my character's history and attitude. So when I approach Blade physically, I have to do moves that look natural to my body type and look natural to my character. And all of that goes into his performance. And so when he's talking to Del Toro, he's like, that's something you have to take into account, that this character has a point of view in the scene. And even though it's an action movie and your instinct is to make it fast and cool, you should still be looking for those performance moments that still tell the story. So that was huge. That was a huge lesson for Del Toro. And Del Toro touts Blade 2 as being his favorite experience making a movie because it allowed him to grow as a craftsman. And as a craftsman, I already talked about how a director chooses close-ups, right? And now I've told you how a director looks at a script, and if it doesn't make sense, tries to make sure that the action, and what is action again? It's your physical behavior, but in this case, it's an action sequence, violence. So all of these building blocks have to make sense and have to tell a character journey. Because again, this action scene does not exist in a capsule. Something led to the action scene, and the action scene is going to lead to something else. So everything within the action scene has to play a part in the larger story. And if you do not understand that, you will not make a good action movie. You will make a bunch of kind of cool looking moves, and the audience will most likely think your movie sucks because you're not telling a story. A story is exactly whatever a story needs to be, and nothing more and nothing less. So in the case of Blade 2, once we get Blade and Nisa kind of meeting each other, and there's something there. She's very beautiful, and he has a long look at her after that action sequence. So that action sequence is critical to the through line of the movie, which is they will have little building blocks of romance throughout this movie.